I think I have a good relationship with my fans. I actually don't like the word fans. I don't know what other word really to use. They obviously have an enormous range of ages and a range of interests and styles and so on by now. But I think generally there's a human relationship. When I actually meet people, they don't kind of go, oh, it's Peter Hammill, but realise that I'm also normal, as I'm speaking now. This is not the person who goes and sings, in a way. So I have, I think, a good relationship. One of the interior privileges about doing this, touring and playing live particularly, over the years, is that one does get not exactly a heightened sense of reality, but a different fix on reality. I have a purpose every day, an hour and a half actually to play, and usually in a different city each day, so that I'm awake to all of the different realities and the actual changes in a day for me, you know, maybe a lot of slow travelling and time in which there's nothing, and then expanded time, which to me sometimes feels like 10 seconds and is actually an hour and a half or 2 hours. And I think that's a privilege, because often in, quote, normal, unquote, life, people's days become the same and their reality appears to be a static thing. But particularly when I'm touring, I find that it's not static at all. I was brought up a Catholic for 9 or 10 years, educated by the Jesuits. I haven't been a Catholic for a long time. I'm not atheistic. I've lost the word completely now. Without faith, but not without belief. Obviously, there are certain aspects of that, particularly Jesuit education, that still stay with me. And I think, obviously, in terms of some of the songs still have spiritual feelings or religious feelings. Again, this is complicated, I think, by having a family these days, because I look at my daughters and go, well, it's important to have some awareness of the potential bigness of things, you know, otherwise one simply has a nihilistic, atheistic view. And I can't go for atheism, because that seems to me to be believing in something, believing in a not something as much as people who believe in a something. So I don't subscribe to any religion now, but I still feel it's important to think about these things or have feelings for them. That I don't mind at all. I've never had a fear of growing older, and honestly, literally, I don't really know how old I am. Admittedly, it's a funny thing still to be doing, the thing that I do, whatever it is, at my age now. In terms of my contemporaries, they are either very successful or they've stopped. But actually being older is not something that's ever concerned me. You know, of course, I worry sometimes about being ill, but not about being old. So it's only the physical aspects of getting older that concern me. As far as those normal aspects go, I don't mind the kind of the doubts and so on that come with age. Again, if one looks at songs from way back, a lot of them, the early Van Gogh songs and early Cello songs, are very, very clear and dogmatic and sure, as people are, 18, 19, 20 and so on. Whereas now maybe they're more opaque and there are lots more possibilities, which is simply a function of being older, and that I don't mind. In a way, it's a success, I think, to be still playing and enjoying recording, enjoying writing things. Obviously, I haven't had a large-scale success in terms of music industry deals, but that kind of success also has its own problems. At the same time, I have to say that naturally, being a singer and a performer, I'm not a person entirely without ego, and so I also want success. But I think it's one of these things that I've had an ambivalent attitude to over the years. Really, what I want to do is to do the work. And because, of course, I have an ego, I want to be successful as well, but mainly I want to do the work. I wrote a lot of songs about loneliness in my early days. This is a kind of a complicated area because I have a family, I don't live alone and so on. And yet, the place perhaps that I write songs from, or the rooms that I write songs in, I don't mean the hotel rooms, but the metaphors, are generally inside an individual's head. which individual I then sometimes act. And since quite a lot of the songs are about that individual's consideration of himself, I hope not in an egotistical way, but in an analytical way, obviously loneliness is attendant on that. But these days I think it's considered aloneness that I write about rather than loneliness, which is a different thing. In those days, I think I felt it necessary to create specific alter egos or to give them names. In the case of Nadir, that's a self-given name. With Kay, it's a name that was given to me because of working in the K group and just became a nickname. These things are, of course, some way back now, and I haven't given myself any new names in the last 10 years or so. So perhaps now I feel either that identities in general are too complicated to be divided up into simple units like that, or I just don't feel the need to do it anymore. But I do certainly believe that any individual is a different person for every one of their friends or acquaintances, and none of us actually are just the one. There's not one single person that we are. We change all of the time in time and also with other people when we're with other people. My biggest virtue, tenacity. Obsession. I distrust all politicians because it seems to me that in order to achieve a position of power in politics, you have to have wanted power, just as you don't end up being a performer without ego. So that's from a personal point of view. But on the other hand, there have to be politicians or else there can't be any governments. So it's complicated. I still don't feel that it's a European place, and maybe it never will be because of that water between Britain and the continent. And it has just elected a government which is systematically stripping schools, hospitals and so on of money. And apparently that's what the nation, at least in terms of the voting system, wants. I have to have a certain amount of hope for it, again, because my children are growing up there. So I have very ambivalent feelings. For myself, for at least the last 14 or 15 years, I think I've considered myself European first, and then British second, and then English third. But in general, I think, in England, people think of themselves as English, and then maybe British. They might think about Scotland or Wales, and then maybe European. And I think for the culture of the nation, really, it should change, if it's possible. I'd like to die when my children are grown up, first, taking a Zen phrase of a king who asks a councillor, "Can you predict the future for me?" And he says, "Yes, you have a very wonderful future. Grandfather dies, father dies, son dies." And the king goes, "This is absolutely horrendous. You're just telling me all these appalling things about death." And he says, "No, that's the natural order of things. And if son dies before father and grandfather, then that really is tragic," and so on. So that, in time, is where I would like it to happen. For the rest, this is something that will happen, so I can't even speculate. I could be as many birds or animals or musical instruments. I could change my heroes and so on, but there is only going to be one way, and whatever it is, I'll have to accept it if I know about it. So I don't look to it and hope for one thing or another. Obviously, apart from obviously saying, I don't like pain, I don't like protracted suffering, but on the other hand, life is something that one still drives towards and hopes to sustain as long as possible. So it's the biggest don't know, maybe, this answer.